very much in the news and has been successfully pitched as sort of the issue that America faces. It's certainly, if not, I don't know if I agree that it's the issue, but it's certainly one of the issues. And it's prominent in the minds of many Americans and many voters. So it's politically relevant as well as being societally relevant. And that's the problem at the border. The southern border, porous, and it continues to be beset by all kinds of issues. The story there is so multifaceted that it has to be told in that way. And tonight, a respected journalist, friend of the show, Jim Avila, the former White House correspondent, the Murrow Award-winning and Emmy Award-winning, Peabody Award-winning correspondent, does a 48 Hours on the Border show. It's the end of a 2-day series, and it will be aired across the Scripps network of stations. I'll ask him exactly where we might be able to see it. But he is the senior investigative reporter now at KGTV, the Scripps-owned ABC station in San Diego. How about it for our pal Jim Avila, everybody? Wow, look at you. You were barely at this station, and you've already come up with what looks to be like a pretty hefty piece of journalism. What is this 48 Hours on the Border about?
Well, first of all, it is on a niche network. But
very well done. Very well done.
I just want to say that calling me disloyal is a little unfair. There was a bidding war. And, Mark brought out at about 30
what?
Of the bidding war. It's pretty tough to compete against zero.
Yes,
but,
I
able to do that.
I felt that just the prestigious nature of your appearances here on the show would be payment enough, but clearly I was mistaken.
Right,
so you went for the paycheck, and but one of the reasons you went down to this particular station is because they would let you do this kind of work.
Yes, they really do. It's not your regular local news, and they're owned by Scripps News, which has its own network as well, which you can find on the internet. Some cables have it, but if you just type in on your computer scripsnews.com, you will get to it, and it's like a CNN. It has 24 hours of news.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and you can also download an app, Scripps News app, and you can watch it anytime. So that's that marketing part of it. It is a little hard to find, but not really. It just isn't as well known.
You just need to know it. Yeah, you just need to know where to look. Okay.
Right. So 48 Hours on the Border. We sent dozens of reporters from our state. So Scripps owns it's the second largest station owner group in the country. So they own lots of stations. And what they've done is they own stations along the border: Texas, Arizona, California, San Diego, Phoenix, Tucson, some stations in Texas. And they sent out dozens of reporting teams for 48 hours of coverage on the border. It's a snapshot of what it's like on the border during a 48-hour period. They're running those stories on those stations. And then I put together and hosting a program that will run tonight on the Scripps network. So those are the sort of mechanics of what's going on. What it's about is, it's mostly a non-political, except for, of course, my part, look at what's going on at the border. I do a piece, one of the things that's beautiful about this network and what I do at the ABC San Diego place is that they're not limited to time. They're not small pieces. I'm doing a 6-minute piece tonight on the failures of immigration reform and the fact that in Congress, they have had decades of failure of trying to reform the immigration system so it's broken. We have the experts who say to me, our system is broken. People, when I get so angry when people tell me all the time, oh, I'm not against immigrants. I just want them to come here legally. It's impossible to come here legally, okay? It takes 20 years. Your relatives will die by the time they get here legally. And that's because the system is broken. There's an asylum line that takes up to 20 years to go through the judicial system. Um, if you're not coming for asylum, it's even longer. It really is an embarrassment. And what has happened is, since George H.W. Bush, way back when, there have been attempts to reform the immigration system, and every time the conservatives in Congress shoot it down because it's comprehensive, and it also has what they call amnesty, but what most of us call a pathway to citizenship. And that includes, and this last one that got shot down, Mark, didn't even have a pathway to citizenship. And it still got shot down because of Trump's whims.
Right. What it had, the last one, is an increase in the number of immigration judges. So the idea would be that those in the pipeline would be handled in a more expeditious manner, right?
Yes. And they also were going to have a system where, I think it would have been challenged in the courts because it's not the law, but their system was you would have to go to a port of entry to claim asylum, rather than now all you have to do is step foot in our country and you can claim asylum. Those are the things we look at in my report. But we also have, there's a great story from my colleague in San Diego about the number of head injuries that have gone way up in San Diego from people falling off that damn wall. So they use ladders to, on the other side to get over. But then when they get up on top, there's not a ladder on the other side. And they're falling down, and they're really hurting themselves in their desperation to get here. This is a desperate situation. So,
and to that point, it's not as though, I'm sure there are those who go, yeah, that's the idea, that people are going to get hurt, and so they're not going to do it. But what you suggest with the word desperation is not really. They're going to climb the wall, and then they're going to take their chances on the drop from the wall and see how it goes.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who make it that way, but there's a lot of people who don't. And so they get by the time they get there, they're so hungry and tired, and it's been an arduous trip. So we have a piece on that. There's a piece on what it's like when they actually get to the border, when they actually get to the wall, how they're taken care of. And there are in California, at least, not so much in Texas, but in California, there are Good Samaritan groups who meet them on the other side of the wall, this side of the wall, who provide them with water, provide them with food, provide them with instructions on what's next for them. The other problem that we have is a system called catch and release. But because there's no room in the detention centers here, there's no room in the processing centers, what the Border Patrol is doing is picking them up, taking them to the processing center, and then putting them on buses into downtown San Diego or to other places. And then they have relatives here most of the time, and they get tickets and they fly into the country. And then they're supposed to go to their asylum hearings or their hearings in the city where they're at, wherever they're at around the country. Some do, some don't. Some just disappear into the fabric of the country. So the whole system is it's just a mess. And we blame it on and we demonize these people. I have a great interview in my piece with an immigration judge who's been a veteran immigration judge. And she says flat out that, people have been lied to. She uses that word, lied to. We've demonized these people. Studies show, I use a recent Stanford study that shows that immigrants commit 30% fewer crimes than do the native-born population in the United States. And another study by the Labor Department just came out, which shows that they improve the economy, and that much of our rebound here after COVID has been fueled by immigrants that have come across and are filling jobs that weren't being filled. And because the jobs weren't being filled, the inflation was jumping high, and now it's kind of calmed down a little bit. And a lot of that is because of immigrant labor. So,
well, there's no question, Jim, that just on that last point,
yeah.
The unspoken fact is that our economy is driven. There's a huge gray market that's driven. I'm talking about in restaurants, in construction,
sure.
in maintenance, et cetera, by these people who are undocumented.
Yeah, and they work very hard. There's a story that's not on this special, but if you get a chance, go to the ABC 10 website in San Diego. Um, and there's a story that I did about my family, my immigrant family, the Avila family, who came across in 1925. My grandfather and grandmother, dirt poor. They had my grandmother's relatives had been in the Revolution. My two uncles rode with Pancho Villa. Their ranches, when they lost, the ranch was taken away. They had no money. They met in a border town. My grandparents came across, and in one generation, my uncles and my aunts, one uncle, a doctor, the other three uncles, there are four men. The other three uncles owned all their businesses here in Orange County. One of them owned a body shop. One of them owned a car dealership. Another, these were enterprising people. The second generation is my generation. So we have journalists. We have my aunt, my cousin is a dentist. My other cousin, a female, is a director in Hollywood. This is the immigrant story. This is the real immigrant story. And my grandparents came over in 1925 when there wasn't a border patrol and there wasn't all these fences and everything else. They just drove across, and set up shop here, got their green cards and went to work. So this country is an immigrant country, and we forget that. So if you have a chance, watch that, because my family story is not unusual. This is the story here. Yeah. No,
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Tony. That's terrific.
It is not this is my cousin who's a director in Hollywood. That's my grandfather as a young man in 1925, getting ready to come over. So,
so now, Jim, with the reality, and you're there close to the border, and you've been now to the border and done a lot of reporting from the border, it is a much different situation. And you would concede, I think, that the issues involving immigration, and by the way, it's not just in this country, the climate change and economic desperation has driven a lot of migration all across the planet. But here we have an unwieldy situation, unlike that which you've talked about in the 20s, 30s, 40s. Is that not true? It hasn't. When I say unwieldy, maybe let me put a finer point on it. Don't you think those border communities have been affected in ways that many residents are not disposed to greet immigrants with open arms, or do you think that's more racism,
I think
political?
San Diego greets them with certainly more open arms than does Governor Abbott in Texas.
Okay.
And in fact, one of the things I point out in my stories is that 3 of the 10 safest cities in the country are San Diego, El Paso, Texas, and McAllen, Texas, right on the border. These people are not coming across to commit crimes.
Sure.
They're coming across to work. So is it frightening sometimes for people to see people who don't look like them in large numbers? Yes, it is. But in no way is it an invasion. What there needs to be is a systematic way of processing them. We had Ellis Island. There were huge surges in the past. There were, I point out in my pieces that there in the 20s, it was the Italians. In the turn of the century was the Irish who came across in huge numbers, and they were vilified. And the Jews in the 30s came here in large numbers, and they were vilified. So it's not just, and nowadays, today, when I went to the border the other day and saw the Border Patrol loading these folks up in buses, these were not Latin Americans anymore. What we're seeing now are a lot of Africans, a lot of Middle Easterners, and the Chinese on their TikTok app, they have actual instructions coming across on where is there a border opening, because there are holes in the fence. where to go across, what to do when you get across, and they're all instructed to go right to the Border Patrol and claim asylum. They don't run away into the country. They go to the Border Patrol to get processed so they can begin this whatever system there is there. So what has happened is that the right-wing media has shown these pictures and made people fear. And there are the occasional crimes. This crime in Georgia, terrible crime in Georgia, where this woman was killed by someone who was a recent immigrant and was arrested and let go. There are those things that happen, but to emphasize those and not at the same time give context that this is rare, that this is not what most of the immigrants are doing, and in fact less than 30% less crime is committed by immigrants, is not fair and is terrible journalism. What do we expect from Fox? But Fox is the one who used that picture of immigrants allegedly coming across the border when it was a picture of someplace in Aleppo of people running away. They used that as a picture, claiming that was immigrants at the border. So you can't trust them at all. But what they've done is with a large segment of our population, they have successfully demonized immigrants, and it's really a shame because of the history of immigration.
They've sold a lot of lies, without question. They've sold a lot of lies. I'm looking forward to seeing this. 48 Hours on the Border. You can find it at scripsnews.com. There's also a Scripps News app, and you can grab that too. 48 Hours on the Border, though. What is it really like on the U.S.-Mexico border? Solutions. I love that you talked to an immigration judge. I'm very intrigued by this, and I can't wait to talk to you more. I think you're so now hip deep in this story, among others, and you'll bring that great Avila reporting to it. So great to see you again, Jim. Thank you for being here. Congratulations on this piece. Thanks, and Mark. On this show. Yeah.
And I'll see you tonight. I'll be
tonight in the meetup. Avila will be here. Kim, do you want to say goodbye to your boyfriend as he moves?
Jim Avila, I miss you.
Jim, how are you?
Yeah. I'm good. I'm looking forward to spending some time with you tonight. I'm so excited about this 48 Hours on the Border piece that you've done. I was watching it last night, and it's really excellent. Obviously, you did it, so it's going to be. But it's really, really good, and it looks like you're having success in San Diego.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's a different kind of local news, and as the quote-unquote senior investigative reporter, I get to choose my stories.
Nice.
I did a series on marijuana dangers for kids. Now I'm doing this series. My next series is on concussions in teenagers.
Oh, wow.
So they're stories that I'm interested in, and I think that they're valuable, and it's not the local car crash.
Are we still working on them to let you come back on the Mark Thompson show on a regular basis?
I think we'll fix that.
Okay, good, because we need more Jim
Avila.
Avila.
Have to be careful on the political. Because I'm no longer a commentator. I'm now a reporter again.
Now
so I
back
can't
into the journalism zone. Yeah.
All
right. Good to see you, Jim.
Good to see you, Jim Avila. Jim Avila, everybody. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.